Today's reading is Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 16, and it's found on page 162 of your Pew Bible. Honor your father and your mother as the Lord God commanded you, so that your days may be long and that it may go well with you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. So ends today's reading.
Today's gospel is, again, the story of the lost son. From the gospel, the good news, the gospel according to Luke, chapter 15, verses 11 through 31. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the young son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living, in dissolute living is one of the translations. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his field to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I'll set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to the servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he's come back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you. I never disobeyed your orders, yet you never even gave me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. This brother of yours was lost and is now found.'" So today we're on the lost son, part 2, which we get to focus on the brother, the resentful brother who we all probably identify with to some degree. And it sort of came to me late, but as it always does. I have a plan, and then like God throws some sort of a curveball at me. But it hit me that, it should have hit me on Monday or Tuesday, but it hit me like Friday, that the Crucial Conversations book that we're reading, some of us are reading, and I really recommend getting it. You can get it for a penny on Amazon, the old version. And the Crucial Conversations book really has some stuff to say that applies beautifully to this story. So we have the brother, and the kid brother's gone, and he finally comes back, and the father throws a party. And of course, the older brother is irate. He's very upset about this. He complains to the father, and the father pleads with him to come join the party. And of course, the older brother doesn't go in. He refuses to go in. Now, today, it might not seem like a big deal. But again, in first century Palestine, when this took place, that was a worse sin than what the knucklehead kid brother did when he went off and blew all his money. You know? He actually dishonors his father and his younger brother by refusing to go into the party, and it was a serious sin. It was a serious sin. And the father has the same response to the older brother that he has to the knucklehead kid brother. You know, the knucklehead kid brother comes back, "Father, I've sinned, I'm sorry." You know, he's like, whatever. He blows it off, and he just showers love on him. Showers love on him. And the way he responds to the sin of the older brother is identical. They're very different people, but he forgives them both. And he doesn't say, "I forgive you." What does he say? "Everything I have is yours." Now, they've set us up in the Old Testament with a lot of stories where the kid brother, as he talked a little bit last week, the kid brother gets everything, and the older brother gets the shaft. And the law dictates that the older brother is supposed to get the majority of the inheritance. But we have a lot of stories leading up to this. So those people hearing the story from Jesus would have expected the father to say, "You've dishonored me. Guess what? Knucklehead Junior gets everything. You're out." But he doesn't do that. How he responds is, "Everything is yours. Everything's already yours. You could have had a goat anytime you wanted." It's almost like Dorothy with the ruby slippers. She could have gone home anytime she clicked those heels. The older brother could have had anything he wanted, and he didn't realize he already had everything. He already had everything. A sad parallel between the younger brother and the older brother is that they both have this amazing, compassionate, loving father, and they're both completely oblivious to it. They have no idea how much they are loved. The knucklehead younger brother goes off, the prodigal, and he's trying to find fulfillment through pleasure and through sensation, or maybe numbing his senses. You know, who knows? And the older brother's right there with the father, but he's so sealed off from the sunlight of the Spirit by his own hatred, he can't feel the love of the father. Now, in crucial conversations, during the passing of the peace, I had to run back and get note cards, which I don't normally use, but I wanted to make sure I didn't butcher some of the stuff from crucial conversations and misrepresent it. So the way they put it is clever stories. Another way to phrase clever stories would be lies. Lies. It's a lie that I tell myself, and I tell it so many times that it becomes real. And every time I retell a story, and I might have been legitimately wronged. People do things that aren't cool. I might have been legitimately wronged, but the more I tell the story, the little more innocent I am, the little more of a victim I am, and the little more evil the other person is, like when Nancy deliberately stepped on my toe trying to break it in the story I told the children. As I tell it over and over, it gets a little more distorted by my own anger. The Crucial Conversations book calls these sellouts. They say every clever story starts with a sellout. Well, what's a sellout? I have some small part, and Jesus would probably describe this as the log in my own eye. You know, my sellout is the log in my eye that's blinding me, and in the pain of the log, the pain of the older son not feeling the father's love is so acute that he's focused on that pain, but he becomes focused on the splinter in his brother's eye instead of the log in his own eye. And he's convinced that it's this splinter that's causing the pain. So every clever story I tell about how someone else is at fault for how I feel inside starts out with a sellout. You know, and I might have done, it's small. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It might be I said yes when I should have said no. Somebody asked me to do something. I know I didn't have time to do it, and I say yes anyway. And then I get mad at the person for asking me. And the more I tell the person, the more they actually knew I didn't have time to do this. Set me up to, it becomes an evolving story of how I'm the victim, when I should have said, no, I can't do it. Why didn't I just say no? Maybe I didn't want them to think I was human, that I could do everything. Or maybe I was afraid what they'd think of me if I said no. It started with something. You know, there's a conflict I should talk to somebody about, but I don't. But the older brother should talk to his father. Dad, why are you giving Knucklehead his inheritance? Why are you doing that? You know, do you love him more than me? It feels like that, Dad, when you do that stuff. Maybe the brother always had this feeling that the young kid was the favorite. You know, we have 8 kids in my family, and they don't all think they're the favorite. You know, maybe the older brother could have gone to the father and talked about this. Maybe a sellout sometimes is, I should listen with an open mind, but as soon as I hear something, it makes me defensive, and I go on the attack. We were talking about that in the Crucial Conversations book, where I actually did that with the search committee. Right? I got sensitive because I was asked a question, and in my mind had this whole story, this whole clever story. So I went on this passive-aggressive attack. You know, I couldn't listen with an open mind. You know, maybe I have information I need to share, but I don't. For whatever reason, I just clam up. I can't share the information. These are all small sellouts, and they all precede the clever story. Now the purpose of the clever story is really to protect me, protect my ego. In Crucial Conversations, they say the clever story serves as a justification to stay sick. Well, that's how I would put it. A justification over the results. You know, I really want results. I want a community where I get along with people and we get where we're going, but when my ego gets bruised, you know, I go on attack and I want to justify myself rather than get the results. My ego shifts very quickly into defending itself, and it creates this clever story. Now, another word for a clever story is a resentment. Right? I'm angry a year and a half later because Nancy stepped on my toe. You know, it's become a resentment. I had a friend years ago who described a resentment as drinking a glass of poison and waiting for the other guy to die. Who's suffering from the resentment in the story of the lost son? And who really is the lost son? Is it the prodigal, who's at least had a good time for a while? Or is it the older brother? Is he more lost than the prodigal because he's right there with the father and he still can't feel his father's love? He's right there. The father tells him, what are you talking about? The goat is yours. This is all yours. But the older brother has written this script. I work so hard. You work harder than the servants who aren't going to get anything? I worked so hard. He's so busy trying to earn grace. But you can't earn grace because it's grace. It's free. And the father loves this kid, whether he works hard, whether he doesn't work hard. And as the story goes on, the older brother's clever story. You notice, when does prostitution come up? The brother brings it in, right? It's dissolute living, wild living. The kid's out drinking, he's probably gambling, he's acting like a goon. There's no talk of prostitution until the brother introduces it to the story. How does he know? What, was he there? Was he a supplier? Like, what's the story? How's the older brother know what the kid's been doing? He clearly hasn't had any contact with him, but he's told himself this story probably since he was 10 years old, and his kid brother got something he didn't get, or his kid brother got, and he's told this story again and again and again, and now the little brother isn't just avoiding his responsibilities and getting hammered and blowing his inheritance and leaving the older brother to run the show and take care of dad. He's involved in prostitution now. If it was another 5 or 10 years before the younger brother come back, I wonder if he would have been like a serial killer in the mind of the older brother. And that's how clever stories operate. You know, they keep us justified in being right or in feeling hurt or in feeling victimized. And again, this doesn't mean people didn't do something wrong and that shouldn't be addressed. I would never tell someone to stay in an abusive relationship and to look at your own part. You know, you might have a part, but I don't think that's what God's telling us to do. I don't think God's guiding us to continue to be punching bags or to continue to be abused. But I do think God's guiding us to take the log out of our own eye first before we look at the splinter in the brother's eye or our friend's eye. In this story, the older brother is so obsessed with his kid brother and so angry that he's unable to experience the love of his father, who's right there all the time. His clever story has kept him justified, but it's also kept him very sick. And I don't think we really want that in the end. I don't believe that's what he wanted. One thing we can do to turn a clever story into a useful story, as they call it in Clever Conversations, is tell the rest of the story. Put the facts in that I'm cleverly leaving out. You know, I saw that Nancy was looking in her hymnal. She didn't see where she was going. I could have moved. You know, what's the rest of the story? What's the rest of the story? And the older brother's leaving out a lot of the story. Now, I don't know what it is. I can make it up. I could say what I would, because I've been the resentful brother many times. You know, I could say, well, what am I leaving out that's justifying me? We don't know, but to add in the facts I'm leaving out, to look back to where did I sell out? Where did I sell out? Maybe, you know, I have a family member who's a challenge, and many times I just didn't want to deal with confrontation. And I've just hidden out from the confrontation, or I've let someone else deal with it instead of me dealing with it. That's my sellout. And then I'm angry that things don't go my way, or that you know, this person doesn't see what kind of damage they might be causing. Because I don't want to get involved. It's easier for me to take my hands off. That's my sellout. And my clever story doesn't involve that sellout. It keeps me justified. And it sounds crazy, but my ego wants to be in charge so much that even though it's painful, at least I'm in charge. You know, even though I'm unhappy, at least I'm right. You know, even though I'm drinking the poison, at least I'm telling myself the other person's going to fall down from this poison. So telling the rest of the story allows me to get free from the unhealthy effects of negative emotion. You know, to talk to someone, to pray, to ask God for the courage to share what's going on with me. And it can be something so stupid. I've got to share this example with you before we close. And I thank God, I thank Crucial Conversations in the group we had, where there was an issue over dishes in my house that I was seething over. You know, I work doubles on Tuesday and Wednesday at my other job, and my wife doesn't really do anything with the dishes except pile them up on the thing. And I would see that, and what my brain says is my wife does not love me. She does not appreciate me, but that's so painful that I tell a clever story about, you know, and it gets worse and worse. And what I needed to do was to go and ask her, honey, what's up with the dishes? But I was afraid. I didn't want it. Like, I want to just not say anything. Maybe it'll go away. Maybe it'll. And it actually was a good reason that she shared with me, and we talked it out, and we ended up laughing about it. Now, if I didn't address that, it seems small, but it is a crucial conversation. You know, there's a lot at stake there. And if I hadn't addressed that, it wouldn't have gotten better, I'll tell you that much. Given my track record, when I don't address these sellouts, I tell a clever story and it becomes a major block. So I'd like to close with a prayer from the book. Against anger. Once again, God, I face the power of anger, the torrent of oblivion. When I am harmed by another, or think myself to have been, give me patience to go to that person with a humble spirit, seeking to be reconciled. When I'm outraged by injustice, show me clearly how I too must repent of complicity in this world's broken systems, and cover me in your mercy. When I can neither rest nor work because of the indignation that stirs my spirit, teach me the power of forgiveness and the freedom of love. Deliver me from anger, that I might not be consumed by its fire, but turn the great energy of my soul toward a desire to serve you and your little ones. Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me, also a sinner.